Spellbooks are the magical diary of nerds and geeks that need to have somewhere to put their feelings from being bullied by the jock barbarians and paladins.
I'll do it. But you gotta say, Skeeter is the coolest, I am a nerd.
Skeeter's the coolest, I'm a nerd.
Yeah, you are!
They are the combination of your obsession for collecting things and your fantasy field guide phase. Yes, I know you had one. And these wizardly pages are also your desperate attempt to gain your parents' approval and actually mean something in this dog-eat-dog world that your self-worth is entirely based on getting all A's and eating lunch in the classroom with your teacher.
Look at yourself. You're a nerd who sucks at math.
This is what spellbooks are. And they also suck. Why? Well, my name is Riker, and this is the Cleric Corner. We will be answering this question as well as giving you something for free to help change them for the better. So, here we go. When you think of spellbooks, you might think of...
Gravatoria Supremo! Dear Diary, my life is the worst.
Oh, Father, who art... Wait a minute. This is not my spellbook!
It's the Bible.
And you're right. All of those things. It is the exclusive toy for wizards that aren't allowed for other D&D class children.
Not loud. It's not so loud.
Although, if you've seen my Why Class Tropes Don't Matter video, or literally any of my Better Classes videos, you know my opinion on that. Let my druids have their field notes on nature where she keeps her spells without telling me in the comments that druids don't get their magic through study and don't have spellbooks. You know what I have to say to that? I can do what I want. It's my fantasy, not yours.
Joke. That was a joke.
Warlocks can have evil spellbook patrons. Clerics can have their scripture. And sorcerers can have their parents' notebook on how they manage their magic when they passed it down to them. Fair? Fair. But we are not talking about spellbooks for all classes today. No, we are specifically talking about the wizard and how the spellbooks are the eternal duo in class expectations. Like PB&J or Zendaya and her designer. I don't follow her on any platform, and somehow I know every time that woman breaks the internet on the red carpet. However, I think that the iconic nerd and book trope is the very thing that makes the class of wizard terrible. And here's why. Now, I have played every class at least once in a game of D&D, but for some reason I struggled to get around to playing a wizard. But let's be honest, it's probably my obsession with clerics and the need that every party needs to have a healer, but it's not willing to do it themselves, so I'll heal you, if you ask nicely. But spellcasters themselves have drawn me in way more than martials ever will, and I think I eventually figured out why the wizard was just not one of them. You see, with clerics and druids, you get their entire magic spell list automatically. No research, no extra steps, just you have it.
Invisibility spell. Luminescence spell.
Then each day you prepare what spells you have readily available to you. People think sorcerers are the Nepo babies? No. Clerics and druids get everything handed to them. They are the Nepo babies. Sorcerers have their own issues that I will not get into this video, but suffice it to say, everyone gets to change their spellbooks at a long rest on my table. Everyone. Now you may be thinking, sure, wizards don't have access to their full list, but they do have the biggest list, and you can find more spells later. But to that I say, what's good about a bag of potato chips if you can only have one chip? Or maybe even a couple chips. But the only way that you will ever get a chip is when the person with the bag decides if and when to give you one. Now therein lies the issue. Here is how spellbooks work. As a wizard at level 1, you start out with three cantrips and 6 spells in your spellbook, preparing a couple of those spells to use during the day, and letting the others collect dust until you find them again during your next spring cleaning.
Which spell? Which spell?
With every new level, you get to automatically learn 2 spells for free, but to learn any more spells, you need to find them out in the wild. But hold on, hold your horses, slow down a minute. You can't just write it down. No, you need special magic inks and special magic paper, and this costs a lot of money. 50 gold pieces per level of the spell, to be exact.
Spell? There's no spell.
No, sir.
Meaning for a second level spell, you will be spending 4 hours and 100 gold pieces to be able to even think about casting it. Money you definitely do not have at low levels unless your DM stays on top of it. But let's say you do have the money. Now can you write it down? Nope. You need the third component, time. Oh, but you need to run off and save the village from the goblin horde, and then give chase to the messenger before they get to the big bad, then deliver the message to the local elf druids before their forest burns down, and then find the antidote to their blighted tree before it turns their king evil. Like, your schedule is booked. Now, there are things to mitigate this, as wizard subclass abilities seem to acknowledge that the time and money is a little too much. So making a subclass feature that takes back a feature you were given in originally in the class makes sense, right? Total sense.
It's like they know.
But what I'm talking about is basically every wizard subclass having a second level that reads as follows. The golden time you must spend to copy a blank into your spellbook is halved. So if you're an abjuration wizard, abjuration spells come easier to you. If you were an evocation wizard, let's just say that you learn fireball quicker than anyone else. A fair mitigation, but I would rather have a different second level feature that gives me cool stuff, instead of them acting like your boyfriend with anger issues that gaslight you by telling you you're crazy when you're trying to bring up the trauma that he caused. Dump him, honey. You can't fix him. Don't let flowers blind you from rotted roots. Ooh, that got deep. To recap, you need 3 things to get another spell as a wizard. Time, money, and the actual spell scroll you need to copy down. All 3 of which are out of your control and entirely up to the DM to provide.
It's out of your control, old head.
Now, there are really good DMs out there, but there are also many more DMs that are beginners and don't know how to manage all of their encounters, plot lines, and rewards on top of calculating the fantasy cubed math you need to get to your next spell. More times than not, you will have money and time but no scroll, time and scroll but no money, or money and a scroll but no time. And then the scroll you eventually get is one you didn't even want and have use for, so you give it to the rogue to use and then take up one of your free spells at level up for the spell you actually wanted.
There's the one.
But let's say you do get the one you like. What that also means is that while your friends are buying cool magic items and armors and trinkets, then spending time researching, talking to NPCs, and exploring the town, you are stuck at home doing homework, while the cleric of the party just woke up with their sugar daddy paying off the school so they don't have to do it.
I woke up like this.
Such is the life of the diligent student, I guess, but unless I'm mistaken, role-playing as a poor college student with no social life is something that we have already experienced and have no desire to replay it in our fantasy games. Oh, and then another thing! You know that textbook you spent half of your college savings on and then went into debt for a class that you didn't end up using the book anyways? Yeah, so imagine that your grades and all of your study knowledge was tied to that book, and then you lose it. In order to pass the class, you have to buy another one and start studying from scratch all over again. That's your spellbook if you ever lose it.
Years of academy training wasted.
If you lose your spellbook with all the spells you spent money on to write down, then you have to start over and spend the same gold and the same time to write them down in another book. Okay, I think this college metaphor has gone on long enough. Players want to feel in control. They want to be running their character, not someone else. For other characters, the DM doesn't pick out your feet every time. He doesn't decide what artificer infusions or warlock invocations you get to have, or when you can have them, let alone have you pay for them. In fact, I don't think there is a single other class in the game that requires gold and DM intervention in order to even do.
I don't want to pay anything for it.
Now, the third problem that I have with Spellbooks, I know, another reason. Well, they say that all good things come in threes, so to make my brain happy and your brain happy, I came prepared.
Scout is always prepared!
And if I'm gonna rant, I might as well rant, because I have the platform and you have to listen. Well, you don't have to listen, but I appreciate that you do. It's very nice. It makes me feel good. So I will keep this one short, but my problem is that spellbooks have to be books.
Which is Spellbook is the key to everything.
As far as the rules as written goes, I have to have pages, I have to have the inks. Something else to store my spells in? That is honestly an easy fix, where I just allow for unique spellbooks at my table. You want to write spells on bones, gemstones, sewn into your clothes? Go crazy, kids. Changes ultimately nothing in the game, and I will stand by that. But being a devil's advocate for myself, before all of you can beat me to it and I feel like a bad YouTuber. Bad. D&D is a game of resource management, and I realize that gold is something that needs to be spent somewhere, and other DMs are way better at mitigating downtime more than me. If none of this speaks to you at all, and that you are fine with how spellbooks are as is, both player and the DM side, then don't change it. Play how you want to play and forget this video ever happened.
Poof. Gone.
But know that there are other, more accomplished YouTubers who definitely agree with me.
You do get extra spells as a wizard to add to your book, if your GM gives them to you, but most of the time, they don't.
But, if I could fix it, which I did, this is exactly what I would do. Here are the design goals. I do not want to completely overhaul the entire system to where it is unrecognizable. I still want to keep the charm of a wizard and their special diary. But what if the players had just as much say to when they received these spells to put in their spellbook, and then had the option to spend time and gold to mitigate learning the new spell? Free will. What a concept. I want it to be as simple to the DM as it is to the player, and not something that I have to keep an entirely extra sheet on the back of my GM screen just to keep track of. I also wanted it to feel cool and interesting, where the players are excited by the process of obtaining these spells, and not hit their head against the desk when they have to study a scroll into the wee hours of the night.
We've been up all night, every night, studying. We haven't slept.
Again, I will have all this stuff written down in a document for you for free, so you can read it in your own time. But what if wizards could find and obtain spells outside spell scrolls? This is the first item I tackled. There are spells everywhere in the game, from magic items that your party comes across, to the wizards and magical creatures that they fight. Spells that if they study, they too can duplicate the magic that comes from them. And that's it. First problem solved. Wizards that find a spell in an item, or is taught the spell by another spellcaster, can attempt to copy it down into their spellbook. Attempt? What do you mean attempt? Well, I wanted to still capture the essence of learning the spell, not only something that you pay off the man in the sky and then automatically know.
How did you do that?
I wanted you to be able to feel like you're familiarizing yourself with the spell you don't know, learning it through trial and error. You might be a natural at the spell in particular, or it might take multiple attempts. So I adopted another feature within the game that tries to reflect the learning process of attunement. But instead of learning how to let an item do the work for you, you're learning to do it yourself. So rule number 1 in copying a spell, you must be attuned to the spell you are copying for 2 hours per level of the spell. This takes up one of your spell slots that you may have to put aside until you're done copying the spell, but just being attuned to it frees you up to go to sleep, or rave at the night tavern, save the world, and flip off the magic item seller that gave you a bad deal while you are slowly getting used to the magic of the spell. Think of all the Cleric Corner videos that you'll be able to watch now that you're not scribing spells all the time. Like, a lot. There will be a way to decrease the attunement time, but I'll get to that in a second. Now for the fun part. For those of you who like a little chaos.
Chaos!
I also have a really fun optional rule that happens while you are attuning. Adopt it where you want, but I feel it will both make sense and get a lot of laughs or unique challenges in your game. The optional rule is side effects. With some spells, magic can be difficult to understand or control, so while attuning to the spell, the DM decides a side effect that reflects it. For example, a wizard attuning to the water walk spell might have their swimming speed decrease to 5 feet, the magic they are attuning to causing the water around them to be semi-solid as per the spell. In another example, a wizard attuning to the knock spell will have everything on their person constantly forced open due to the spell's ability to open objects. How will their bag spilling its contents influence a political interaction? Or how will decreased swimming speed influence out-of-the-box thinking in a dreaded water level? I don't care who you are, we all hated them. But now that we have learning the spell down, we now need to practice the spell. We need to get the casting right before we go all out with it. We must practice the magic 3 times before we are comfortable enough to add it to our repertoire. And we successfully practice by expending spell slots equal to the level of spell we are trying to learn, and then rolling an intelligence check with proficiency against the DC of 10 plus the spell's level. We roll at disadvantage while we are still learning the spell, but then normally once we are done with the attunement.
I'm gonna do it with disadvantage because I'm really thinking about my own problems.
But we do not have to finish the attunement if we successfully practice 3 times. Now this is a lot of nuance, but I promise it all works together. So let me break it down with an example. Our wizard is trying to learn the darkness spell. Being a 2nd level spell, it will take 2 hours of attunement. Our wizard can choose to practice while attuning, but rolling at disadvantage, or he can wait till after the attunement is done and roll freely. If he succeeds at all 3 practices before the attunement ends, he no longer has to attune. So he expends a total of 6 spell slots, 2 per practice, and rolls to beat a DC 12. And with Bardic Inspiration and a Guidance, he succeeds. So with a game full of choices, the player basically chooses if they will take a long time or a very short time, but risk having to expend more resources.
Free will, brother.
And if they have enough spell slots, that means that they can cast it normally the very day they obtain the spell. But if they want to preserve their spell slots while within a dungeon, maybe waiting is the best option. Now before we made this change, we had it so that you actually had to cast the spell 3 times, but then a good friend and Patreon member, Christian, helped me realize that a wizard casting Wish or even Meteor Shower willy-nilly just to learn it might be a bit much for the campaign to account for. So just expended spell slots as practice it is. In fact, all of my Patreon members saw this stuff and everything that I wrote down weeks ago. So if you want to be on the up and up, get on the inside, get sneak peeks and other perks, join the Patreon through the link in the description and support the channel in a meaningful way. But wait, there is more.
Wait, there's more. Wait.
Just as you have a choice with time, you also have a choice with gold. Went into town and decided not to gift your barbarian friend the black leather tights? Well, you can now still spend it on extra components to help with your practicing. For if you spend 20 gold pieces per level of the spell, you get advantage on one of your practicing rolls, or spend more to get advantage on all of them. And since disadvantage cancels out advantage, you can either roll normally during attunement or with advantage after it's done. Practicing does get a little easier with a surplus of materials after all. So if you want an easier time copying a spell into your spellbook, you can spend time and money, but in actuality, the only thing you really need are spell slots, which you already have and is in fully your control to manage.
The universe lies within your grasp.
And now any feature of your wizard subclass that cuts time and money in half for certain spells, you still benefit from these features. Now we solved the time and gold issue, and kind of the issue in finding spell scrolls by including items and other people that can teach you, but these are still a little more DM dependent. So let's think. What is one resource that is always consistent in a D&D campaign? And I'm talking every session. If you're thinking the answer is fun, no, I'm kidding. I hope you have fun in every game, but that's not the answer. The answer is monsters.
Monsters.
What if you could pull the magic essence from the creatures you kill and make them into spells? Well, I included that too. And I have to give credit to Pointy Hat, who recently came out with a wizard subclass in one of his videos that has a similar feature of taking abilities from monsters. It definitely helped me solidify some of my ideas I have had for a while, even if I took it to a larger application. So this is how this works. If a creature has been dead no longer than 10 minutes, you can make an Arcana check to gather its latent essence.
You've captured the essence of Kevin.
The essence might be its soul, or an organ, or a magical spark. You decide what the essence looks like. Be a dark monster parts wizard, or a humble mana collector, however you want to flavor it. Though points to anyone in the comments that can give me the best idea for it. I might add it in a flavor table in the document, so go crazy. But once you have harvested the essence, you can use it to create a spell equal to half of its challenge rating or less. Work with your DM to decide what you get, but if you get the essence of a gelatinous cube, you might use it to create an acid arrow spell. Or a high challenge rating earth elemental could provide the foundation for an earthquake spell. You still need to learn and practice the spell to put it in your spellbook, but now every monster you come across might be something new to learn. And now a word to all you grinders and maximizers out there. No, you can't be farming through heaps of flumps and getting a different spell each time. You will not get a new spell from the same creature unless it's something complicated like a beholder, and your DM lets you pull from a different eye stock each time you kill one. But now, I know what you're thinking. Well, that sounds like a ton of fun. I know. But can we harvest monsters even if we aren't a wizard? And to that I say, abso-freaking-lutely. Just let me write a few things down here, and voila! But I think that it needs a little bit more work. If we are going to overhaul the entire crafting system, I'm gonna be needing a bit more time. But if that's something you want to see, like the video and let me know you're interested. And subscribe to stay notified when I put the video out. But how about this? I will give you a sneak peek, because it's gonna be all a part of my next rant.
Spoilers!
Because while we're on the topic of spellbooks, we might as well fix making spell scrolls too. Because both spell scrolls and creating magic items have the same exact problem as spellbooks. A ton of time and a ton of money. So much so that players will rarely create anything. Not even Critical Role, the pinnacle of D&D campaigns as far as notoriety goes, haven't once created spell scrolls in all 3 of their campaigns going on 9 years. And they have only created 1 magic item, once, in the 2nd campaign, and it was just to decorate their own house.
And technically it's the first created magical item in this campaign.
It is technically the first created magical item. I basically want to make Christmas lights.
And you instill each one of these jars upon where it connects with it with an element of the daylight spell.
If those things share the same issues as spellbooks and no one likes to create spell scrolls or magic items, then that should be all the proof I need that spellbooks need an overhaul. Plus, creating a 6-level spell scroll takes a grand total of 8 weeks. Some campaigns don't even last that long. And it's not 8 weeks of adventuring, no, that's 8 weeks of downtime as the world around them continues to be on the background.
Yeah, the FOMO is real.
So when you think of a real cool workaround to defeat the big bad, you don't even have a fraction of the time to create a spell scroll or magic item before his takeover plan comes to fruition. Does no one else see the problem with this? And then the whole thing about a lot of crafting systems being ultra specific on what each monster within the book gets, and then nothing for homebrew monsters, or it's a whole complicated system that takes a whole Google spreadsheet to keep track of. But like I said, the crafting system is for another video, but I think we can start with a foundation that will be simple, include the exact same rules as spellbooks, and provide a jumping off point for a larger magic item creation down the road. So when your players get a good idea, they can actually pull it off in a reasonable amount of time.
We might actually be able to stop an act of terror.
So what we're actually going to do first is getting rid of spell scrolls altogether and calling them what they are, single-use magic items. And that's really it. Mechanically, they are no different than the consumable one-use item or potion that you consume and get a spell effect. You can use it, you get the benefit, and then the item is then inert. So why not make it all the same? Well, we will. Spell scrolls are just a one-use magic item. And like all one-use magic items, you can make it with spells you know, or with the essences of monsters you find along the way.
Extract his essence!
So if you are a spellcaster, you can imbue a spell into an item taking an amount of days equal to the level of the spell. Each day you spend 1 hour of working time instead of all day, and then you just let the magic steep or marinate before you can continue to work on it the next day.
And I am gonna let it soak into my head.
And you can change this back to a full day of working if you feel like it's too much while your players have months of downtime. But if you're worried about your players taking advantage of your downtime, either just have an honest conversation with them or don't give them month-long downtimes.
You did this to yourself.
But during this hour of work, you make an Arcana check of 10 plus the spell level, increasing the amount of days required by 1 if you fail. So you basically just fail the day and have to try again tomorrow. You must have the spell prepared, and you create only 1 spell scroll at a time. But you do still have the option to spend gold on extra spell components to give you advantage on any checks. And it will still take you a few days to create something, but never weeks upon weeks. But the real kicker here, the real fun part to flavor your character, I am so excited about this, and to give uses to toolkits that are normally discarded, are creating different item types. Because if you want to imbue a spell into an item, you have to know the magic and you have to know that item. Meaning that to imbue spell scrolls, you need to be proficient in calligraphy tools. And they told you you would never have to write in cursive again. But like seriously, what happened to cursive writing?
His handwriting sucks. No offense.
Anyways, to imbue spells into potions, you need to be proficient in alchemist or brewer supplies. Make magic shoes with cobbler's tools. Make magic food with cook's utensils. Make magic clothes with weaver's tools, and so on. I have the full list of what tools make what kind of item and all of the rules we've talked about so far in the description below. So if you want a wizard that cooks spell brownies instead of scrolls, you have one.
You're smoking brownies and you're eating wheat.
Chances are any one character has at least one of these proficiencies, so anyone can flavor their magical creations in a unique way. Plus, if you are proficient in disguise or forgery kits as well, you can hide your magic items akin to the Arcanist's magic aura spell. Since you live in a magical world, these kits could make sense to carry some semblance of tools to combine the trade skill with magic in some way. What has the freedom of movement spell? Not these shackles. But let's say you aren't a spellcaster and still want to create a scroll or a magic item. Well, you can gain a spell from a creature's essence in the exact same way we talked about before. Kill the creature, take its essence with an Arcana check, and use the spell you learned from it to the imbuing of the item you want to create. Your rogue halfling needs a one-time mirror image spell, so you kill the displacer beast and he uses his cobbler tools to imbue the beast's essence into his own shoes, clicking his heels twice to activate it. and then you'll need to find another similar creature to do it again. But what if you don't want to be proficient in Arcana? I hear you say. No fear, you can use Medicine, Nature, or Survival as well. I would even say Religion could be a contender for Devils and Angels, but I'll leave that one up to the DM. So now you aren't gaining the essence through magical means, but again by taking its essence through medical or natural means. In the gnome's case, he skinned the Displacer Beast's hide and made them into leather shoes with his kit. The skin became the essence in that case. So know this. The essence can be anything, and it's up to your own imagination. But we are not done. Oh no. I am competing with Pointy Hat, after all. Can't let that guy have all the fun. But no, I have no beef. I don't even know if he's seen my videos, but maybe someday we'll be throwing our hexy wizard spells at each other. That guy can dream. Anyways, we've talked about spellbooks, we've talked about essences, we've talked about creating single-use magic items. What if, stay with me, we had a wizard that specializes in the very things that we have talked about? A wizard that puts all others to shame when it comes to not copying spells into a spellbook, but creating them from other creatures. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, well, I did that too. I have been using time I do not have these last couple weeks, guys, but I did it. Not only a full rule change of an entire aspect of the game, but a subclass too.
Did this to yourself.
But dang it, I couldn't pass up on the opportunity to wrap up everything and give you an option to playtest out the wazoo. Because I should say, everything I have given you today is subject to change as we give feedback and it is playtested, as homebrew things often are. And I'm not going to pretend to make everything absolutely perfect right out of the gate. I think it's more admirable to acknowledge something may be flawed with the promise of making it better as you go.
That shows integrity.
The link document will be updated to reflect those changes, so don't worry, you won't miss out on anything. But those of you who do give feedback, thank you. You have made the TTRPG world a better place. Okay, enough dilly-dallying. I am here to introduce you to the School of Essence, a wizard that learns from experience rather than books, one that spends time interacting with the elements and creatures around them, that gives them insight into the delicate makeup of their essence. At second level, you get Essence Savant, and any spell you create from a certain type of creature's essence is cut in half. You get to choose from any creature type other than humanoid, because we all know that that's like 15 different creature types all rolled up into one, and you are humanoid, so no mystery on what that anatomy looks like.
Also, I've never seen myself naked.
Like I was saying, really good at essences, in case you weren't listening. And you can work with your DM to determine what kind of creatures will make appearances in the campaign. At 6th level, you get Essence Sensitivity, giving you the chance to gather a creature's essence while they're still alive, and even longer after they're dead. And then if you do, you gain insight on their physiology, like their creature type, resistances, or damage types they use, bringing Steve Irwin back to the big screen of your live play series.
You can see behind his head, that's his venom gland.
At 10th level, you get Abstraction, adding your intelligence modifier to gather essences and cutting magic item creation using essences of your chosen creature type in half as well. And then finally, at 14th level, you get Quintessence, where you do not suffer disadvantage in learning a spell through essences while attuned, and then shut down a creature's spells or abilities when you gather their essence, taking a little bit of them with you. You can also choose a second creature type to benefit from your Essence Savant and Abstraction features. So those shoes that the gnome was making, if you specialize in monstrosities and therefore Displacer Beasts, I think you're about to go into the shoemaking business.
Let's capture that girl and steal her magical essence.
Now I can see expanding this out to 14 subclasses, each one focusing on a different creature type, which who knows, I might eventually do. I will definitely be adopting all of this in my home game, so I'm sure at some point my patrons will see them pop up on the Patreon exclusive Homebrew archive. If you like Homebrew and want to see everything that I have ever done, including community editions and things that I have never published anywhere else, my Patreon would be where to go, linked in the doobly-doo. But for now, the School of Essence will do. But my question is this something that you will even adopt? Do you agree with these changes, or will you change it even more to your own liking? All plausible. But either way, the new way to write spells into a spellbook, new ways of making scrolls and other single-use magic items, and for the School of Essence Wizard subclass, all is in the description below for free. It would mean the world to me if you checked it out and told me what you think. And once you have all the rules that you need, but are looking for a fun, unique wizard character idea to complete the ensemble for your next game, you can check out my video on completely changing your perspective on what a wizard can be, or my Scribe Wizard video for something a little more specific. but also deals in the business of writing things down well. Or just stick around till I eventually get around to my crafting systems video. Ugh. Until then, go out there and make your world a better place. See ya. Thanks, baby!